Well, a tough conversation to be had now this morning because today is World Suicide Prevention Day. The South African Depression and Anxiety Group has released some alarming figures to help create awareness and offer insight into suicide in South Africa. Since January this year, SADAG has received more than 145,000 calls, and of those, almost 42,000 have been to the Suicide Helpline. To tell us more, I'm joined in studio by Dr Sindi Van Zyl, who is a SADAG board member. Good to see you. Thanks very much for coming in, Cindy.
Thank you, Leanne.
So, I mean, we talk about these statistics and the numbers, and, you know, it's hard to even worry about the numbers, but we need to worry about the numbers because it gives us an indication of where we are at as a country. So, from your figures, what is the suicide rate looking like here in South Africa?
Well, it's still very high. I think the biggest challenge is people seeking help. We know that the main causes of people dying by suicide is relationship issues, there's financial issues as well, and of course trauma. But the biggest cause is undiagnosed and untreated depression. So we need to break the stigma around mental illness and get as many people as possible into care and help.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that I think the realization that there is help out there, yes, and some people don't realize that, or they have nobody to turn to, or as we were chatting off air, the voices in your head are telling you a very different story to what actually is the reality. So you've been through it. Yes. You know what it's like. So let's perhaps focus on your personal story for a little bit. And I think through this we'll obviously give a lot of viewers out there perhaps that needed advice that they so badly need right now. When did you first start struggling with depression?
So I started struggling with depression, I think, in about 2012, and then I was diagnosed in 2013 and admitted into a mental hospital. And by that stage, the chemical imbalance in my brain was so serious that I had suicidal ideation. We call it suicidal ideation, where you think the only solution is for you to die. And many people go through that. And those voices only stopped once I was in the hospital and started taking medication. And I think I share my story because I want people to know that it's not you, it's not your fault. You know, you're not doing these things to yourself. There's a chemical imbalance in your brain that can be sorted out, but you need to seek help for it. And you can only seek help if you can identify the symptoms of depression. So if you've changed, if your behavior has changed, if you're not eating properly, if you're not sleeping well, you've lost interest in the things that you used to enjoy, there is cause for concern. And the symptoms, if people around you can recognize the symptoms, it also helps. Just someone asking you, Cindy, are you okay? Is everything really okay? Just that could jolt you into action, into seeking help.
Yeah. Well, when you said you were in 2012, what were the signs that depression had started in you?
For me, I'm a social butterfly, so I stopped going out, I stopped socializing. I was always sleeping. Sleeping was the best time for me. I'd go to work, put on a happy face. A lot of people are walking around, acting normal, acting as if everything is okay, but deep down, they're very empty. So I did that for a few months, but eventually it stops. You can't do that forever. And so sleeping then became my refuge. I'd get back from work, go into my room, close the curtains and sleep. And I was always sleeping. Yeah. And that's when my husband also realized that, no, something is wrong. Something's not right. And eventually I had to get admitted.
And now you live with depression, obviously.
Yes.
You're a medical doctor. I mean, you treat patients for something like this, and yet I think it makes it so much more personal when you can recognize it in people and then they understand. So you're living with it. Do you have your ups and downs, or are you quite sort of...
No, I have my ups and downs.
Even tempered now.
Well, that's the thing with depression, Leanne, is that you do have your ups and downs. But the important thing is that once you've had therapy helps you to cope with the stresses of life. So I respond differently to things that used to make me extremely stressed in the past. And that's the importance of therapy. So some people might need therapy alone, and they get better. Some people might need therapy and medication, and then some people might need therapy, medication, and to be admitted. Yeah. But the important thing is to seek help and to make sure that you get the help that you need.
I'm looking at a couple of the well-known South Africans, and I'm just talking about well-known South Africans because there are so many South Africans that we may not know their names, yes, but their family and their friends know their names and their loved ones. South African musician Catherine Swain died by suicide at the age of 25. Ian Visser, grade 12 boy, took his own life in Pretoria recently. Local singer Nechume Siwundla. These are just some names of people that have taken their own lives, and that is purely out of desperation. Even though you get people like this and people are aware of it, it's still a very taboo subject, isn't it?
It is. We struggle to speak about suicide. I think even the wording that we use, we've changed the wording. We no longer speak about people committing suicide. We say death by suicide or died by suicide, and a new term that has come through is suicided. So just as the way we speak about it makes people feel bad about the situation. So we're working hard. SADAG works very hard to make sure that people understand what depression is, know that they can get help, and get help before they die by suicide.
So it's quite interesting. I see that you have actually partnered with BBDO, the advertising agency. You've got an online campaign, which is probably the most powerful place to be, because it's a lot of people, and especially when they are going through this, may sit online and try and help themselves. But at the same time, it may not help them. But talk to us about this campaign and how it's actually working.
So the campaign is there's a video that is that's online on Facebook. Especially Facebook is a wonderful platform to share such information, and people can go onto there. There's infographics that we're sharing, and all it is that we want people to know that if you're in trouble, because SADAG runs the only suicide crisis helpline in South Africa. So we want you to know you can call 0800 567 567 if you need help. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. The helpline is open 24/7. There are 22 lines, and there are people on the other end that are willing to talk to you and help you through your situation and make sure that you get the treatment that you need.
Yeah, and that's important, is realize that you phone and there will be a voice on the other side.
Always, 24 hours.
24 hours, there will be a voice, whatever time you're going through this, give them a call. The other thing is that at what age does depression start? And that's another thing that we need to talk to, because children also suffer through depression.
Yes,
and perhaps we don't recognize it. We think, they're just sulking or they're being hormonal. Meantime,
they're going through a lot. I mean, we look at what's happening with bullying, cyberbullying, bullying at school. So if your child changes, if your child becomes withdrawn, if your child tells you that they're worried about something, you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention. So kids may not manifest their symptoms as it won't be as easy to spot as an adult. But if a child changes and says, Mama, I'm worried about this, I'm being bullied at school, I'm not happy about this, we need to pay more attention. We can't brush it off and say, oh no, just go to school and sort it out. No, we need to pay more attention to that.
Watch your children, make sure. The other issue, and I think it's important that we touch on this as well, is the latest incidences of femicide and the abuse against women. It is a real dark cloud hanging over our country at the moment, in society and the women of this country. I can imagine this causes depression. This will result in suicide as well. Talk to us about this.
So trauma is one of the reasons that people may slip into depression. And I think with all the stories that are surfacing now, the people that are going through that trauma will need to get psychological help. The people that have been triggered by incidents from their pasts that they may not have spoken about will need to get psychological help. So, make sure that, whatever's happening in the country, don't drown under that dark cloud. Get help, because help is available.
Yeah. I mean, one of the issues, and there are so many issues, and that's just one of them, financial problems.
Yes.
That tends to always come up as a major issue, that people don't know how to contend with this. They've got financial problems, they can't help, and they take their own lives. Any form of trauma and relationship issues. Do those come up as some of the most popular reasons why people turn to suicide?
In
but
that
I suppose
order.
topping it is depression.
Yes, so in that order: financial issues, relationship issues, and trauma.
Okay.
And I think with all the retrenchments that are happening and so on, I think companies have to be very aware of the risk of people that have been retrenched slipping into depression, people that have lost their jobs. And you need to have a safety a safety catch for them. It's one thing to retrench people, but make sure that they've received counseling. Make sure that they have post retrenchment counseling, because we take it for granted that people are going to be okay after they've been retrenched. No, they won't be okay. No. It's a big change in your life. You may have a house that you have to pay for. You may have a car to pay for. You have kids to look after. So we need to make sure that we're covered during that traumatic time.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up. Again, give out that number. Perhaps a little bit of advice to somebody that this very morning watching this program is thinking, I can't go on anymore. And I'm actually going to take my own life.
No, there is help. SADAG is there. The number is 0800 567 567, and the SMS line is 31393.
Yeah, there's help. There's always help somewhere. Look for it. You'll find it. Depression is something that you can put under control, and you can make your life a lot better by just seeking help. You'll be amazed what it can do. Dr. Sindi Van Zyl, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for coming in and talking to us. Dr. Van Zyl is also a SADAG board member. Now, today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Since January this year, SADAG has received over 41,800 calls to just their suicide helpline alone. If you need help, give them a call. It's 24 hours. You can call them on that suicide emergency line 0800 567 567. Please call them on that number, or 0800 456 789. You can get hold of them at any time of the day. Let's take a break. We'll have your news for you after this.